Crash and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I want to discuss Peter Greenaway's 1985 film, and this is a Zed Two Noughts. Now, I kind of fucked up in my discussion for The Belly of an Architect. That wasn't actually the first collaboration between him and Sacha Vierny. This was Peter Greenaway's first collaboration with Vierny, and so I will have to correct that in that video because otherwise I'm going to look like an idiot. So yes, this film, it is about two brothers who work at a zoo and are perpetually letting all of the zoo's animals loose, and it's wreaking various types of havoc, and it's slowly causing the zoo to go bankrupt. The film starts off with the two brothers' wives being killed in a car accident involving swans, and the other woman that's in the car with both of the brothers' wives, both of the brothers end up having a joint affair with. She ends up losing, if I'm not mistaken, one of her legs in the accident, and they sort of have this weird love triangle with them and her. Now this movie, in a lot of ways, that's the story on the surface. I do also believe too that the brothers were responsible for the car accident, not on purpose, of course. They were both devastated by their wives being killed, but I really believe that they were responsible for letting the swans loose, because that is just what they do at pretty much every chance they get through the course of this film. Is they're releasing various animals that the zoo are responsible for out into the city and allowing them just to go free for some reason that's never really made entirely clear. Now, technically, in a lot of ways, this movie is three movies in one. I'm not going to get too into that aspect of it because this talk will go into the 20 and 30 minute range. But there are a few things going on in this movie that you could make the argument that it's three movies in one. There's also, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was 25 or 26 different types of lighting employed throughout the course of this film. At one point, one scene is shot and lit using a rainbow. So Greenaway, it's sort of like his brain was going like hyperactive at this point. As I understand it too, he quizzed David Cronenberg heavily for a few hours in a restaurant prior to making this film about making a film to do with twin brothers. I don't think I pointed that out. This film is about two twin brothers who work at a zoo who lose their wives. And Cronenberg, of course, by this point had already made Dead Ringers. And so Greenaway was looking to do something similar, but seeing as how Greenaway isn't exactly a leech, he can stand on his own, he wasn't going to do anything that was going to copy Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. But nonetheless, as I understand it, he sort of interrogated David Cronenberg for a few hours in a restaurant about the ins and outs of making a film about twins. And in a lot of ways, in a way, not in a lot of ways, in a sense, you could argue that this is sort of like the unofficial sequel to Dead Ringers, even though technically they don't really have a lot in common. I will argue that the brothers in Dead Ringers and the brothers in this, they do sort of have the same mechanisms at play. They sort of have the same mentality. They have the same personalities. They're very rigid and very scientific and almost cold to the touch. And so you could definitely see Cronenberg's influence in that sense. But like I said before, Greenaway, he can stand on his own and he's capable of making his own films without borrowing too heavily from other people's hard work. This movie is nothing like Dead Ringers. Dead Ringers is nothing like this. I think my favorite thing about this movie is just how it was shot and how the whole movie seems to revolve around being born, growing old, and decaying, because things decaying play such a significant role in this. The one brother is completely obsessed with recording and photographing various fruits and small bugs and whatnot, like dying and putrefying, liquefying and vanishing. It's like decay it factors so heavily into the narrative of this film that you could argue that the movie is more about decay than it is about loss or heartbreak or having to sort of work through the waters of losing somebody that you love. And this film could be more of an incredibly cold take on aging, maybe, as well. Even though the characters in this film, they stay the same age that they were at the start through the entire film, because not that much time passes, you could still make that argument. Decay factors into this in a big way. But I just love how many different types of lighting were employed. I love how in the brothers' offices, like, the lights are flickering and flashing on and off, and how despite this, you don't lose any sight at all as to what's going on in the scene. The lights are flickering on and off, and you can still see everything because everything is lit so beautifully, despite there being an actual lack of lighting. Greenaway's a genius, and he's done some really remarkable things, and I always felt that he never really got the attention he deserved. The only time he really had the spotlight on him was for The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, and rightfully so. It's a harsh look at Thatcherism, and I get it, and I love that movie too, but I do feel that he was always sold a little short, because films like this, it was almost like they were just kind of like swept under the carpet too quickly because maybe they were too smart for most people. God knows they were too smart for me. This was way too smart for me. It took me like a dozen watches before I started to figure out the intricacies and how the smaller aspects of this film worked in cooperation with the bigger aspects of this film to create the film as a whole. I just love this movie. I absolutely love the score by Michael Nyman. That's like one of my favorite film scores ever written and recorded. I've seen this movie like dozens of times. I still don't really understand it here and there, but I do love to watch it unfold. It's like Greenaway's films are more like paintings, you know, and an incredibly well-painted picture is worth 1,000 words. Oh, fuck. God, that was lame. I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 6.5 minutes while I discussed Peter Greenaway's 1985 film, A Zed Two Noughts. If you liked this review or whatever this was, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.